Junkies! About Rotten Tomatoes and kind of the Eternals reaction to it. So a lot of it was made about Eternals being the lowest rated. I think it's officially rotten, I believe, right? Officially rotten.
I think it teetered back up, but I'm not sure.
All right, so it's like one of the lowest. It is the lowest MCU movie according to Rotten Tomatoes. Which all that really means is that the critics didn't love it. Like there was a lot of critics that didn't love it. That doesn't mean it was a bad movie. They just didn't love it.
It was better than Venom. So
it's very surprising because the way the movie was paced, you'd assume it'd be the critic's dream. Like, this movie was so slow and boring. Look, Eternals was very slow paced. It could have been a little bit.
The bag of the plot, shook it up, and dumped it on a table.
Yeah, they could have. There was a lot of stuff that could have been fine tuned, in my honest opinion. So
yeah,
we'll definitely talk more about that during the Eternals section. But
yes, we will.
It's just, to me, the type of movie that I see that film critics seem to like. They seemed like it was right up their alley.
Yeah, it did. It did, but I think there's also something to be said, GQ, for people being used to what a film series is like. And when you deviate so far from that, they don't know really how to take it.
Okay, here's my take on that. And this is why I don't listen to any critic sites anymore. Because people are fickle. People want to change their mind with the change of the wind. When the MCU first started, everybody was like, I don't quite get it. Thor was boring. Thor the Dark World was boring. This and that, blah, blah, blah. Avengers came along and shut everybody up real quick. Mm-hmm. It's like, this works. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Now people have gotten to the point where, and they were complaining, it's the Marvel formula. It's like, if you really look at their films, Captain America, the three Captain America movies are all different movies. Mm-hmm. They all could technically fit in their own different genres, if you really wanted to be that precise about it. So for them to say with Eternals, it's like, it didn't quite get it, or it was, it didn't feel like a Marvel movie. It's like, okay, well, what is a Marvel movie specifically? Because apparently it's either a formula movie and it's super popcorn and it's nothing, or it's one of the most lucrative movie franchise brands of all time. So right. Can't be both.
Right. The knock on Eternals was that people have always said, well, and here's one thing that I got from it. People compared it to Zack Snyder's Justice League movies.
I still don't get that.
I don't fully get it either. But I think after watching Eternals, I can understand why they're saying that. They're saying it thematically. Eternals discusses more philosophical ideas and themes than most of the other
hero shots.
I didn't really pick up on that, but okay, you're not wrong. Eternals dealt with a lot more philosophical and deeper thinking themes than your garden variety MCU film. And I believe that's where a lot of people were saying that's where the disconnect came from, because Zack Snyder attempted to discuss things at a higher level, but he also confused things by throwing too many things at the wall and trying to make them all fit together. I can see some elements of that in Eternals when we start to talk about it later, and I'll go more into detail about that at that time. What do you guys feel about that fall? And you obviously feel some sort of way about how Eternals kind of turned out and how different it was.
Yeah, it's on one hand, I kind of see how people, I guess, were. I don't know if it was just folks were kind of just had this idea what Eternals would be, and I think the way I looked at it, like I didn't even go into this movie like thinking it was going to be like your typical Marvel extravaganza type movie. Because like the whole feel of it just felt different. Like even with the trailers, like the movie itself just felt different. So it's like going into this movie, it's like, and this is like literally the only the only comparison I can make. It's like it's essentially what they've done is they've made essentially this is like Marvel's. You could argue it's Endgame, but this is kind of like technically its first real like epic movie. As
that's
far
how
as
you
like,
felt about Eternals.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it because like because obviously it shows different points in human civilization because they they were on Earth for 7 millennia. So you feature that their influence on civilization growing and this, that, and the third, and again like them kind of hitting those high concept things with a natural order of the universe and this, that, and the third. So it kind of like hitting those notes and at the same time kind of having to remind you that this is the MCU because I mean they have to do it, but I just thought overall like it was more of a more balanced, and folks can argue, but I just feel like it was like this is like Marvel's first like epic movie, like in the same vein as like Lord of the Rings type movie, or even Dune. You can even say Dune because Dune's like, regardless of how you feel about Dune, like as a concept, as like being an adaptation, it's an epic. Just like you can look at some of the older classic movies like 10 Commandments and Ben-Hur and stuff, like those are epics, as far as like how they tell the story. So I don't know, like I just thought it was really interesting in like those concepts that they hit with it. Like I thought it was cool. So
okay, well thanks for that. So but I think jumping into the chat, there's a couple things going on in the chat I want to read that kind of will lead us into our next topic, talking about potential superhero fatigue. So Eternals, I feel was an extremely ambitious film, but other people felt like it dragged on too long. The movie also played too much into woke politics.
Like what?
Okay,
what?
We'll talk about that
because woke is such
we'll get to that later.
Nowadays. It doesn't even have any meaning when it even came around 5-6 years ago. Now
Right.
It has even less meaning.
Well, I mean, yeah, woke can be categorized in so many different ways, and not all of them are very positive. So
most of them don't even make sense because as soon
most
as you
of
ask
them
somebody
don't.
something, they have 0 words behind their explanation.
Right. It just says really you can sum up, it's too woke to really mean I don't like this. Like this doesn't look like what I like. I don't like this. Not that woke has ever been necessarily a bad thing because representation is important, but
Henry
people
Swanson
decry.
is my name.
But like literally, people decry just saying doing it for the purpose of doing it is bad. Why?
Who cares?
Like why? Like literally, why?
Takeem brought it up right there. The gay father, or what's his name?
Is the only woke thing in this. Well, not that, but Makari too. Makari being the first deaf superhero.
I mean, I didn't mind her being deaf. I just didn't understand why she was deaf.
Right. They never explained it. They never bothered explaining.
Yeah.
She just was deaf. Period. Well, okay. So getting back on the topic. So is Eternals the first credible evidence of superhero fatigue with the MCU?
Depends on who you
That's
ask.
gonna be a tough question to answer because again, we run into the situation where for years people asked for something different, and now that you got something different, now folks are complaining that it's too different. So it's just one of those things where people are never going to be pleased no matter what. It's just like there's never an in between when it comes to superhero movies, especially with the MCU setting the standard. Either someone has to love it or you just have to hate it. There's never an in between with anything. Almost, it's just like, look, everybody and mama wanted to say the Black Widow was a garbage movie. what about it was garbage was the fact that like it just wasn't what you expected it to be, or if it was just they didn't necessarily do anything new, or whatever. Because it's like if it's a situation where they didn't necessarily do anything new, okay, fine. But to say the movie was garbage, it's just like, what is your definition of garbage then? Like,
well,
if it's,
you also got to think too, the Rotten Tomatoes, leaning back on that, is so like heavily dug into the culture that they're credible critics, and we know this.
They're credible, but they're also not at the same time. You know what I mean? Because it's collective.
But they also have a theme. They're Rotten Tomatoes. It's kind of their thing to look, at something and say, okay, I did like it, but this is our job, and now we have to put up some shit, and then people actually take that as something and run with that. But that's going to happen, completely outside of that. It's not like you can look at a movie and say it's bad because the different that I pictured isn't what I got. Like that's a horrible way to think about it. But even after the Eternals, you think, okay, with the next thing that's going to happen, the first thing you start doing is speculating off of what you just saw, not what you're going to see. So like it's just the weird psych up, and everybody's brain is different, so no one sees anything the same way. And then you got a director who knows how to see things a certain way to try to fit all this crap together, and it just never matches up. I love the costume design, and that's just something I look forward to in any hero movie.
Right.
As long as they got that right, I'll pay attention. I'll see what they got.
You seem like you're easy to please then. It seems like you're
not that I'm like
easy
to please. It's just certain things that, like, if your movie's complete trash, but I'm just watching it because it's canon or something like that. Like it's part of something that I kind of need to know about. I'm going to find reasons to enjoy it in order to make it through it. And from doing that for so many years, I've just gotten this list. Like, if your movie's doing weird shit but the music's good,
right,
then I'll give it, I'll continue to give it a shot. If the costumes and stuff look good, I'm going to continue to give it a shot. And by the end of the movie, I got more things to actually judge off of, other than saying, the movie was trash and let's just forget about it.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed that clip. Make sure you check out our live content on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Culture Junkies. We also have a lot of content available on YouTube, unboxings as well as Blu-ray reviews. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Culture Junkies. And on top of all of that, if you go to culturejunkies.net, you can check out our merch store. The link is culturejunkies.net/merch. There's a lot of great merchandise there. So there's links and logos and stuff all around me. So check those out, and we will see you next time.